Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Savitri is the Message. As always, with our beloved brother, Alok. Namaste. This statement of the mother is such a powerful statement. Just to think that she says, Savitri is the message, all else is preparation. So, we are working on the lines that have the word message. And today we are in the book of the Traveler of the Worlds, and it is the Descent into Night, Canto 7. Page 216, I will begin after the break. A lone discoverer in these menacing realms, guarded like termite cities from the sun, oppressed mid crowd and tramp and noise and flare, passing from dusk to deeper, dangerous dusk. He wrestled with powers that snatched from mind its light, and smote from him their clinging influences. Soon he emerged in a dim, wall-less space, for now the peopled tracts were left behind. He walked between wide banks of failing eve. Around him grew a gaunt, spiritual blank, a threatening waste, a sinister loneliness that left mind bare to an unseen assault. An empty page on which all that willed could write stark, monstrous messages without control.
So as we see, this descent into night and the worlds of falsehood intervenes between kingdoms of the greater life and the paradise of the life gods.
Yes.
So kingdoms of the greater life is a world where one begins to conceive, imagine, wish about a greater life. So in that surge of intense emotion, feeling, one climbs up almost as if one has touched it, and yet one has to come down because the preparation is not sufficient. So when one comes down, one enters into the night and then takes the passage. It's a very interesting journey actually. And why one has to go into the night, this what people are very often afraid of the night. If you are afraid of the night, you won't see another day, by the way. It's a passage from one day to another. And the reason is, if you really look at night, what happens during night, it's very interesting. Biologically, when you wake up in the morning, what has happened during night? It is a cleansing process that has gone on. That's why in the morning when you wake up, you want to take a shower, you want to go to the washroom, because all the waste of the body has been extracted to be thrown out. So night is a kind of catharsis when many things, many false hopes to which we cling. So we'll see that he is going beyond the people tracts. Termite cities guarded from the sun. This is such an interesting, simile, such an interesting image. Termite cities, literally, another place also he will speak of that. So termite cities we'll see today, there are cities, are built like that, where the cities don't sleep, okay? And most people there, they will work like that because you have the light whole night, and in the daytime, the cycle is to sleep. This is no offense meant towards those who want to sleep late. But this just is a symbol. Life has been organized like this. The city never sleeps. So what happens in those cities? This was at least my experience in Hong Kong, that, I was surprised that whole night, people are awake. Whole night from my room I could see, the night is active.
Yeah.
Now don't ask me what was I doing, but I was curious. What is happening? But in the daytime, morning when I went out, everybody is asleep. The whole road is vacant. So this is a kind of approach of life. In India, this was called as Nishachara. Nisha is Raat, night. So those who are moving at night are Nishachar. And you see animals also, all the creepy creatures come out at night. So it's a symbol. So termite cities, at one place in Paris, when mother is giving a talk, she says the earth is in such a great darkness and what must be done to save this civilization. But then she says, what about the life of the cities? Life of the cities where the darkness is 10 times greater because it's centered around desire. You see, this average city is developed around desired self. Money, desire, and then power. These are the things in a city life. So she speaks of a city like Paris, where she describes the mother's own version of what Paris is. She says that these people are plunged into this darkness under the glare of artificial light. So what I am trying to say is that way Pondicherry is very good. Come to Pondicherry. It's a much better place, okay? It gives you a perfect combination of city life and the sunlight. Otherwise, city lights are plunged into that. So, the description of a lone discoverer in these menacing realms. Nobody is even trying to search. They are living that life and they believe that that is ultimate. Oppressed mid crowd and tramp and noise and flare. See the description? Crowd, people, markets. That is the impression one gets. Passing from dusk to deeper, dangerous dusk. He wrestled with powers that snatched from mind its light. That's why it's very important when people say going beyond the mind. So there are people who get this impression that mind is no more required. Dropping the mind at any stage, we don't drop the mind. Mind has to be ennobled, purified, refined, informed with a greater light and transformed into its original truth.
For without the mind, we're back to the animal state.
Yes, so some people, that mind is not required because one has to go beyond mind, which is true, absolute true. But mind has its place. The place of the mind is to organize the vital life of an animal kind. That's how the mind organizes. And where it makes a mistake, when it believes that it can even analyze and know spiritual truths. That is where it makes a mistake. There it has to learn the lesson of humility and open to a higher light.
And we see, though, that Sri Aurobindo is probably the only one who has gone down here and brought the light into this darkness.
Yes. Oh, this is a nowhere one.
Exactly. I have quoted this before, but it's valid here also. None can enter heaven who has not passed through hell.
But see the description, it's very interesting. If you just see the description, everything that is above can be imitated by the vital and the subconscious.
Yes.
Look at this description. Soon he emerged in a dim, wall-less space. Wall-less. Let there be no boundaries. Let there be no walls. Heard about it? That
I would like to speak of an experience that I've had and another fellow in the ashram had. When we would go to Mother, there were no walls. It was just space. There were no walls at all. And it took a long time to get to her feet. And now I see that it's one step.
Well, that is... But it's so important to remember that is the original wall-less space.
Yes.
Unity in multiplicity, diversity. Yes. Here in the lower world, like animals, there is a wall-less space. So walls, the mind comes to build walls to create individuality. Yes. Then you offer it. So these are the steps. So wall-less space. Then there is another one, which comes, people tracks were left behind. All this, otherwise, because we have to go beyond the pole of society, so we become not just asocial, but we become antisocial and unsocial. That's not required. So people track. There are some people who believe that by shutting ourselves in a room, we are doing great sadhana. One may be entering into one of these worlds. And see the third one. Giant spiritual blank. We have heard that the mind drops and there is a blank. But this blank is a very passive blank where anything you allow, you become like a football. Anything comes and writes anything, any suggestion from anywhere, and one accepts it as truth. So he is cautioning us that be careful. Sri Aurobindo was asked that can the vital world, lower vital world, mimic the calm of the divine? He said yes. Ananda, very often you'll hear this. Yes. Oh, I'm experiencing Ananda. Excuse me, you need to be a super Parsifal, mother's words. complete freedom from any seeking for pleasure before one can experience Ananda. What one experiences is joie de vivre. I mean, French. The joy of life, which is okay, which is needed for life. Better to have a joy of life than to be depressed. But Ananda is something very different, and it need not manifest in anything external, active. Look at Sri Aurobindo. When he describes all the Ananda at all the levels right up to the cells, but when you look at him, like the Himalayan beauty, Himalayan grandeur. So that is the imitation that this world does. A threatening waste, a sinister loneliness. So there are two kinds of loneliness. One is a divine loneliness. Great are strongest when they stand alone. So that is a kind of, because you are seeking from the unique to the alone. The divine is alone. And as you go closer and closer to him, all else is left behind. That is a divine loneliness. It never makes one feel uncomfortable, unhappy. And there is other state of loneliness.
A sinister
Loneliness.
Sinister
And
loneliness.
when people start experiencing it, it is one of the first sign. Either you are being dragged below or you are being ready for the spiritual life. One of the two. Which way you take a turn, you are still in the twilight zone.
Yes.
This kind of feeling of loneliness can really drag, and people do all kinds of things because they're feeling lonely and bored. Boredom, the disease which goes without a name.
Yes.
Boredom is a disease which is not yet recognized in the official, and no medicine is available. Doctors also suffer from it. And one of its good treatments is workaholics. That is still okay. But all other... But boredom is a disease. Loneliness, because of that, people do all kinds of things. Clubs, parties, they call it life. But essentially, it's springing from that state of loneliness.
Yes.
And if you scratch below the surface, you will see that people are feeling deeply lonely. And they try to fill that loneliness with the whole world. But that loneliness can only be filled by the divine love, because it's from the abyss. So this is the suggestion here. That left mind bare to an unseen assault, an empty page on which all that willed could write. See, Mother describes an empty page, but she says on which only your will should be written. Here, anything, any kind of suggestion is not a divine suggestion. Stark, monstrous messages without control. And that's why it's so important to surrender, to be vigilant. As we read it, only were safe who kept God in their hearts. I know a story of a gentleman who, now of course people start all kinds of things. But he felt moved, or some people asked him to give a series of lectures on some of Sri Aurobindo's works. So he sent a telegram to Mother that I've been asked and I want to give lectures. No reply came. So he waited for another week, another telegram, no reply came. So after 15 days, he sends a message. Well, Krishna appeared before me and told me it is okay, you can give these lectures. And Mother said he is completely under the grip of hostile forces. This is not Krishna, but an imitation. This is such a... We don't realize this life which we think everything is good. That's what Sri Aurobindo wants to uproot. Because the melody lies there. Why this darkness is there, we can understand. There is a way to understand it, because it challenges the Godhead within us. See, this since we are at it, some people may ask why God created this darkness. Very simple. When there is, imagine, no challenge to life, no darkness, nothing to pull you back. What is the average idea of a good life? Average idea in most people's mind. Good job, good married life, I don't know, whatever it means. Children who are studying, going to good, money, no illness, long life. And they want to die with 20 people at least in the photo frame. This is the idea of a good life, which is really nothing. It's not even worth tinsels. So, how to make people understand? All the great masters have come and told this. I was today reading a poem of Ras Khan. He says, I am ready to give all my wealth and everything just to have a glimpse of Shri Krishna. And then he discovered that Ananda. So because of this, darkness comes and says, look here, you are in my domain. Excuse me, give me my tax. What's your tax? Illness. Anything else? Well, wait, I'm going to send a little more adversity to you because this is my domain. That's the time that the, Devatva, the sense of Godhead, awakens in human beings, though many will break down.
Yes.
So all these challenges are part of a journey. And if we want to avoid it, the only way is consciously progress without waiting for this fellow to come and say, who are you? Consciously progress and lean upon the Divine Mother. That's what she says. Only we're safe.
Yeah. Who kept God in their hearts.
I'll just read those lines, because what is the way? And these beings are everywhere. We often, we often think, we have this strange, skewed idea that people who are well dressed, they can speak very well, they are coming down in, big fashionable cars, are high ups, connected with high ups. There is a passage here where Sri Aurobindo describes beings he met who looked like living men. In street and house, in councils and in courts. Courts, they at least wear the black dress. Yeah. If you still don't understand, please go inside and you will realize. So, no offense meant, but these are realities of life. We can't just close our eyes to it. Well, doctors wear a white coat, but many are equally, Beings he met who looked like living men and climbed in speech upon high wings of thought. Oh, what wonderful. That minister, he gave such a fiery speech. Be careful. Huh? Hitler gave such inspiring speeches that he moved an entire nation.
Yes.
To do what? That is history. But harbored all that is subhuman, vile, and lower than the lowest reptiles crawl. And now comes that mind becoming a spiritual blank. The reason meant for nearness to the gods and uplift to heavenly scale by the touch of mind, only enhanced by its enlightening ray, their inborn nature's wry monstrosity.
Yeah.
So that reason which is used only for cheating, deceit, cunning, to fool. So what happens? That's when the reason is snatched away. And then what happens? It becomes, vanity is one danger. Sri Aurobindo and the mother have spoken especially about vanity. Vanity is a big danger in spiritual life and humility is a big safety. So, vanity is to believe that somebody is special. And if people come and tell you you are very special, just look down how big a ditch there is. And you don't have to say, no, I am nobody and nothing. That itself can be vanity. I am nobody, nothing. Even that is, see, I am saying like this. Just stay in that state of mother. It's so beautiful. So vanity is one of the things that opens the doors to hostile forces. And on the other side, humility. What is humility? Not before people, but before the divine. We are nothing, not even dust of his feet. That is humility. And so she gives the solution because, the problem is indicated. We must know the solution also. This is page 211. Only were safe who kept God in their hearts. And it reminds me of one of the lines from Ramcharitmanas. Hanuman is to enter Lanka, citadel of the Asura. So he hears, the poet writes, what is Hanuman's state? What is his preparation? He's going to enter the very city of the demon king. So the poet writes, Pravishi Nagar Kije Sab Kaja Hriday Rakhi Kaushalpur Raja. Enter the city. Do all that deed you are meant to do here. But keep always the Lord in your heart. Kaushalpur Raja. Lord Rama and that divine in your heart. So
I'll carry on a little bit with courage, their armor, faith, their sword. They must walk, the hand ready to smite, the eye to scout, casting a javelin regard in front, heroes and soldiers of the army of light.
courage. This courage is that even if the darkness is absolute, the mother at one place has compared courage to aspiration. It's very interesting. How is aspiration compared to courage? See, even in the densest darkness, if you can still aspire to God and not give in that, oh, see, look at it, what happened to me, my life has become this. But even if everything is dense, dark, courage is that which can still hope, which can still revive. At one place regarding courage, Sri Aurobindo says these are the only two indispensable qualities courage and faith. Even if all the rest have failed, these two can revive.
Yes.
So these are courage, their armor, faith, their sword. They must walk. And one place, Mother says, people don't know the power of faith. She says that if you believe that God is cruel, He will appear like that because it's necessary for your spiritual progress. But if you believe that He will lift you up 1,000 times, He will do that. And then she says, people do not know what a power faith is. And then somebody asked Mother how to have faith. She said, ask for it. They are blessed who have faith. Really, it is the biggest blessing, biggest gift one can ever have in life is faith. There is nothing, no greater gift anybody can give. And this comes only from divine.
Yes.
But one can ask for faith. And then the hand ready to smite, the eye to scout, ready to smite. Because the danger may come in the form of your loved one. Hand ready to smite, the eye to scout. You should know, it should not be unconscious. You should know what is what. The hand ready to smite, the eye to scout. So any movement which is coming inside, under any guise or garb, that movement you must be able to remove at once. Anything that is dark, anything that is perilous. And then casting a javelin regard in front. You know, when you throw a javelin, javelin goes there. So look far. What is going to come? And of course, most important is Ma, 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 Ma. That is the ultimate mantra Sri Aurobindo has given.
But this hand ready to smite
Yes.
would be the antithesis of Gandhi's view.
You know, since you mentioned, and it is good to be frank, then there is a book called Bhavishya Puran in India. So Bhavishya Puran mentions about future, all the people who are going to come. And I am not going to tell what parties and all that it says. But it does describe a man called Gandhi, who is the rebirth of Dhritarashtra, which you actually see happening, the division of India and Pakistan, ending up with that. So, and besides, you know, typical hallmark of an Asuric nature, takes up one principle and holds it as absolute. This you should be very careful. Anybody picks up one principle, non-violence, and that too not from the depths, but superficial, outer non-violence. See what a twist is given to that principle. Inwardly you may be boiling, but don't raise the arms. This is, just like showing something, but you are inside something else. Second, rigid. And the third is propaganda and, all this, I wear like this, a particular dress, standardizing it, standardizing everything.
Yes.
All these you will see that in this canto, Descent into Night and the World of Falsehood, Sri Aurobindo describes it. This standardized perfection, trying everybody to follow the same rule.
Yes.
And look at divine, he leaves all of us with such to move along our own paths.
Yes.
So without a doubt, of course, one need not now have violence over what Gandhi did or didn't do. He's gone. But one must understand what is what. Otherwise, one will not learn from history that true non-violence, when Mother was asked this question about Gandhi and his non-violence, she said, she laughed and said, they have put him all there. But actually, it is not good for India, for anybody in the world, to hold an absolute gospel of non-violence. Sri Aurobindo said it much more gently because he's a gentleman. He said that, it's okay for an individual to do it. You can't make it a national ideal. And we have suffered because of making it almost a national ideal. At least in India, after the, Panchsheel and then the Chinese aggression, because we thought this is the way to go about. So it can come in masks. That is the important thing to realize.
Yes.
Don't be carried away by appearances. He looks an ascetic. We have this strange mentality. If somebody is all his life wearing only one color cloth, or bare-bodied loin cloth only, we rush to believe that he's a sadhu. But it's not about outer renunciation. It's something inner tyaga. So, as you mentioned about the javelin regard and armor and sword, of course, this is an inner battle. We can read, few lines below.
Okay.
If one proceeds along this path, what comes? His spirit became an empty, listening gulf, void of the dead illusion of a world. See, another imitation. There is a state of depression which mimics vairagya. It is called in India as tamasic vairagya.
Yes.
World is an illusion. Why? Because you can't grapple with the forces. So it's an illusion. When Nirodha asked Sri Aurobindo, I feel state of vairagya inside me, and what people develop after years of sadhana, I have it immediately. He said, yes, anybody can feel vairagya after having a little cold. It needs no effort. Effort is needed to come out of the illusion. You feel the world is an illusion, it's very easy. It's 100 means. But the real effort is to come out of the illusion and discover the reality which is behind. That needs the spiritual fire. So he feels that the world is, illusion. Nothing was left, not even an evil face. He was alone with the grey python night. Wow. So this is the last battle which we know. There is another image which describes the way the battle takes place. This python is in Indian legend, it is described as Vritrasur. So he covers the entire city and sieges it. And because he covered the entire city, the water stopped. It's a very interesting story. The last Asura home, Indra fights. So Vritrasur takes the form of a python. He besieges the city. And how does he do? He puts coils all around so the water stops flowing. And when water stops flowing, the life gets stifled. Water itself is life.
Yes.
The flow of life is interrupted. And then Indra has to fight, and ultimately, he kills him with his famous thunderbolt. And next page again, toward the end. In nameless and unutterable fear, as a sea nears a victim bound and still. This is Andromeda and Perseus. So the sea sees the world forces. Helplessly one stands. The approach alarmed his mind, forever dumb, of an implacable eternity. Again, you see that sense of eternity.
Yeah. Yes.
Of pain, inhuman and intolerable. This he must bear. His hope of heaven is estranged. He must ever exist without extinction's peace, in a slow, suffering time and tortured space. Toward the end, but he endured, stilled the vain terror, bore the smothering coils of agony and affright. Then peace returned, and the soul's sovereign gaze. To the blank horror a calm light replied, immutable, undying and unborn, mighty and mute, the Godhead in him woke and faced the pain and danger of the world. He mastered the tides of nature with a look. He met with his bare spirit, naked hell. All naked hell, all else is snatched away, but there is nothing which can eventually take away the divine presence within. People ask the mother, does the divine presence go away? She said, no, it gets veiled. If divine presence goes away, there is no life, there is no creation, one collapses. So if one waits and endures the passage with faith and courage, it will return. And not only return, there will be a progress. I think that's what is the next portion of message.
Yes. 232.
Yes. So when you have gone through it, what is the end result? Why he created hell? So
I'll start. Arousing consciousness in things inert, he imposed upon dark atom and dumb mass the diamond script of the imperishable, inscribed on the dim heart of fallen things, a paean song of the free infinite, and the name, foundation of eternity, and traced on the awake, exultant cells, in the ideographs of the ineffable, the lyric of love that waits through time, and the mystic volume of the book of bliss, and the message of the superconscient fire.
this is the end result. So what really is hell? What really is the torture and darkness one goes through in life? On the previous page, because Sri Aurobindo went into that darkness. You see, we are always, that's why because of this frightening darkness, people didn't go, and they saw and they said, oh, this world is all full of darkness, escape, escape, because nobody went into it to discover the lover behind the mask. So they were frightened. But Sri Aurobindo goes there and rips the mask, and what does he discover? That is beautiful. This is the next canto, The World of Falsehood. He says, there in the slumber of the cosmic will, he saw the secret key of nature's change. There it is lying, lost. He takes it out and gives it to man. A light was with him, an invisible hand was laid upon the error and the pain till it became a quivering ecstasy. This is the transformation. The body of pain changes into a body of bliss.
Yes.
The shock of sweetness of an arm's embrace. You know, this is something very interesting and beautiful. As you were saying, it's an experience where you meet God in the daytime. So it's like, hello God, how are you? Very good. Meanwhile, somebody else is also waiting. Oh yes, how are you? God is saying, look here, I have come all the way. Yeah. But then somebody else. So you are busy with 100 things and poor God is waiting. But when there is night, nobody around, and what do you do when there is night? You fling yourself in his embrace. And you don't want to leave it. Hold me. Don't let me go of this.
Exactly.
So this is where he describes the shock of sweetness of an arm's embrace. What did he discover in the night ultimately? He saw it was the arms of God.
Yes.
That's what is described in Mahabharata when Arjuna has made a promise to go to the domain of death, and Krishna takes him through a complete darkness. And he says, I can't see anything. He says, yes, but I am with you.
Yes.
There is a passage through which he passes where nothing is visible. It's so dark. So he cannot understand. So he tells Krishna, where are you taking me? Are you there? He says, yes, I am there. So this is the faith with which one has to move. And
he saw in night
the eternal's shadowy veil. What was night? At one place, Sri Aurobindo says, people say that God created hell to punish. He says, I think, much better of my beloved. If he created hell, even this is an act of love. And look, that's what it comes. New death for a cellar of the house of life. Mansion of life, in which there is a little passage going through a cellar. In destruction, felt creation's hasty pace. New laws as the prize of a celestial gain. And hell as a shortcut to heaven's gates. This is not, he is not saying search for hell and go through the door as a shortcut. But hell will come your way. When it comes, know that
exactly.
It is a shortcut. God is too eager to take us. So things which we could not leave behind, loss, he forces it. And then there is hell through which we pass. But at the end we discover the same beloved. And that is the unity. You see this Tao symbol, some of them like the bright
Yes.
and the dark symbols. It's like without that the completeness of perfection cannot come.
And when the grief comes, when a beloved one dies,
Yeah.
we are deeply ingrained in that pain. But Sri Aurobindo speaks of death so beautifully.
Yeah. In fact, at one place it doesn't exist. And then what happens, the image is all modern image. See, this is the beauty. In Vedas, also imagery is there, symbols, but they are all images suited to that time. Now you have modern images used by Sri Aurobindo. And then in illusions, occult factory. This darkness is an illusion. It's a kind of asuric maya which has been allowed. It creates the feeling of utter loneliness. It creates the sense of despair. It's an illusion. It creates the feeling God will not listen to me. It throws doubts. Oh, where is God? See what has happened to my life. So it creates that kind of, asuric illusion which Ravana did when he showed to Sita that look here, Rama is killed. Here is his head. But Sita says, no, that never happens. All else is okay. So, tone where and in the inconscience magic printing house, tone where the formats of the primal night and shattered the stereotypes of ignorance. Then we are told you have gone through, it's okay now. Show me that paper where it's formats of alive, breathing a deep spiritual breath. Nature expugned her stiff mechanical code, and the articles of the bound souls contract. What is the bound souls contract? All the entire, we are told about karma, about entering into this world, they are completely washed away. Falsehood gave back to truth her tortured shape. Annulled were the tables of the law of pain. What is the law of pain? It's described in book 6. The law of pain is basically the law of ignorance. Follow the path of ignorance. Ignorance basically means that I don't know who I am. I mistake myself to be the body or this surface personality. And I feel I am confined to this visiting card. Or my pehchan, my identity is known by my, relatives and big people. This is ignorance.
Yet in the Life Divine, he tells us that ignorance
Sevenfold,
is really a half knowledge.
Yes, it is a half knowledge. There is a truth that there is a body, but we are the body is ignorance. There is a truth that there is a surface personality, but I am this surface personality, that is ignorance. That's where one has to discover his identity. That's why the psychic being. That's the first step towards freedom from ignorance. Annulled were the tables of the law of pain. Once you are free from that, and in their place grew luminous characters. And this passage which you just read, it reminds me of what Savitri itself is. See, it's after he had descended, as you said, Savitri is the message.
Yes.
Why? Because if you see all other volumes, 14 to 20, 21, it is before the horrors have completely engulfed the world, and after that, Sri Aurobindo saw that, what this...
Yes.
he knew it, he grappled with it and went down into the Pythonite because there was no other way. Man would not collaborate. So that's why towards the end also he kept on. And the maximum revisions took place in book 2. He knew that, after that when he came out, grappling with that hell. So Savitri is something very special. That's why he says, Savitri is the message, my most important work.
And at one point, I believe it was to Nirodbaran or Amal, he says, there is no time for Savitri now. He is fighting this war with Mother.
My most important work. That's how he put it. The skillful, see, this is my way of looking at it. This is Savitri.
This is so beautiful.
It's born after he has grappled the forces of night, bared them and conquered them. The skillful penman's unseen finger wrote his swift, intuitive calligraphy. Sri Aurobindo's writing Savitri. Earth's forms were made as divine documents. What is Savitri about? About everything in creation. That is the Veda that he reveals to us. Earth's forms were made as divine documents. The wisdom embodied mind could not reveal. Why? Because there is a region where the embodied mind cannot go. And therefore it doesn't know the secret. Inconscience chased from the worlds voiceless breast, transfigured were the fixed schemes of reasoning thought. Savitri is like that. It's people, of course, use the word iambic pentameter, but it's basically a blank verse. You can't fit it or fix it into one of those fixed ways of.
For me, this is the most beautiful.
Yeah, and this is the effect of Savitri. People who want to ask, what is the effect of Savitri? Arousing consciousness in things inert. This is not an exaggeration. Things inert are not just human beings, including the pen, the table, everything around. It has gone. I remember one of the places, it seems, Mother mentioned, somebody had kept on top of Savitri some other.
Yes.
You can
I
narrate that story.
Actually, it was Nirodbaran putting some papers on top of Savitri. And Sri Aurobindo said to him, please don't do that. Savitri is my body.
Don't keep anything on top of Savitri. You see? Because it is not just a book. Arousing consciousness in things inert.
Yes.
Everything that they have touched, every place where you read Savitri, I would go to that extent.
Yes.
Even when you write, that place becomes charged with that atmosphere in the very air. Yes, can you read?
Isn't it? Yes. He imposed upon dark atom and dumb mass.
Imposed.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Imposed.
The diamond script of the imperishable.
This is the diamond script. Diamond is, of course, the supramental of the imperishable. This is going to last.
Yes.
Even if nothing else Sri Aurobindo and the mother did. Let me put it like that. And just gave Savitri to the world, it is enough to save.
Agreed. Inscribed on the dim heart of fallen things. A paean song of the free infinite and the name, foundation of eternity, and traced on the awake, exultant cells in the ideographs of the ineffable.
So here we'll just, you see these words he has used. Name. You will hear in all the great mystic literature. Name. Name is the one which can take us beyond. So what's in a name? People often say this is not true. Name is a vibration which tries to capture in terms of words that original truth. That's why in India originally names were kept after one of these two books. One was for boys, the name was kept after seeing Vishnu Sahasranam, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. And for girls it was Lalita Sahasranam. So it was 1,000 names of the Divine Mother. So each of these names expresses some deep truth. And in its origin, what is that name? Name is the stir with which creation starts. First there is name and then there is form. Nama and Rupa. The first stir is name. Onkar, signature of the Lord, Mother has said. And then this name, which starts the creation, that stir undergoes various modification, then there is form. That's how creation is made. So name is the first stir in creation and it is also the door towards eternity. So it doesn't matter, pick up any name. For us it's so simple, Ma. But otherwise name, the power of name has always been known to all mystics in the world.
Notice that name here is capitalized.
Yes.
And Sri Aurobindo tells us when we repeat the name again and again, the divine, as it were, enfolds us.
In fact, at one place, Sri Aurobindo says something which is known in ancient Indian thought, that to call the divine name is the shortest way. And he speaks about this Kali Yuga.
Yes.
And there is a line in one of the, passages in Ramayana where he says, because in Kali Yuga is an age when consciousness becomes very dense. It is in matter. So you can't immediately recover the spiritual self. That's the effect of the Kali Yuga. I'm not going into why it's necessary and all that. So it says Kali Yuga because the consciousness has gone into utter dumb, dense, material, obscure. It is working in that. So it says Kali Yuga, Jog, na Jap, na Jnana. You can't even do Japa, you can't even do Tapa, yoga, true yoga, Jnana, very difficult. So then what is the way? Ek Adhar, Naam Gun Gana. Pick up a name and think about the infinite qualities that that name embodies. That is the path given to man. And Sri Aurobindo in one of one-liner, Naam Jap has a great power in it. Entire Odisha movement, Baba Ramakrishna Das, he would say only two things. He would say only two things you must practice. And of course, you can't reduce yoga to a simple formula. But having said that, so he would say Nama Jap and Patchakra. Patchakra is study, collective study of Sri Aurobindo and the mother's works, and Nam Jap. Just call the mother's name. That name is the foundation of eternity. It has the power to liberate us from everything. Sri Aurobindo says in so many letters where he says, if there is dense darkness, just call mother's name. Call her name.
What is the line in Savitri? And the great name?
And the great name. The same in Descent into the Night.
Yeah.
A prayer upon his lips and the great name. This is the passage.
I'd like to read to the end of the canto.
We'll just... to trace on the awake exultant cells in the ideographs of the ineffable. This is a language which is the lyric of love describes Savitri. What is Savitri? The lyric of love that waits through time.
Yes.
Not love which says, okay, tata, bye-bye, but the divine love which always waits through time. And the mystic volume of the book of bliss. So it is the book of bliss. And the message of the superconscient fire. So it is the message, ultimate message of the superconscient fire.
Then life beat pure in the corporeal frame. The infernal gleam died and could slay no more. Hell split across its huge abrupt facade, as if a magic building were undone. Night opened and vanished like a gulf of dreams.
So beautiful this is. Night suddenly vanished.
Yeah.
Facade, as if a magic building is suddenly undone. That is the experience. The power of the name. I mean, maybe I can share very early, 3 decades back, one of the experiences where I went into a domain where there is one lady who is the queen of that place. And she is wearing all the people there are wearing dark clothes. And there is with me a little baby. And that baby resembles the mother, as in childhood. And then I am going into I ask them, absolutely no fear or anything. Why am I brought here? No, you have to meet our queen. And only she can decide to free you. So I said, why should I be captive? So I go there, the lady comes. And everything is nice, looking outwardly all very decent. They are not, menacing. And then she says, I want that child. I said, no way, you can't have this child. So she tries to come near she has a syringe, something in the hand kind of thing, with which she wants to enter into the child's brain and take something. That's the image. And as she increases, tries to come near, and the child is nonchalantly, smile on the lips, absolutely fearless. So I just say, Ma. Then she few steps back. Again, then I get a joy. Wow. So again I say, Ma. Few steps back. Then all of them, they start, trembling. It's like a planet, the place where I have gone. And then all of them, then I start enjoying. Ma. Then they all start putting that, don't say this, don't say this. I'm like very super happy, like a game here. Ma, then the planet begins to crumble. And within, this, I wake up with this ma, and the entire place is shattered, the entire kingdom is gone. It's a real experience. Another one about Savitri was when I underwent a surgery, and so anesthesia, so they, after whatever time, the doctor has come and he wanted to wake me up. So he's asking me, how are you? I don't remember what he was asking, but I remember what I was seeing in that state and what I spoke the moment I came out. So the moment I came out, I just remember saying, all can be done if the God touch is there. And then now I remember the doctor saying, what is he saying? Those who were near me say, no, now he's okay. Don't worry. And then simply saying, Savitri, Savitri, oh my Savitri. That was the state that, that deep inside in the darkness, she is present. These are real things. We have to, and when you go through it, life is so beautiful. When you know that even in the densest darkness, when darkness was dense and covered with darkness, he was seated within it, immense and alone. The whole purpose of these two cantos is, darkness is there. But remember, it's an asuric maya. Yet it has been allowed by the divine because it's a shortcut. But remember that however dense the darkness, she is there.
I will share a story, a living story of an experience at Oro Orchard when this young man was working there, and this boy sent in his animals to eat the crop. And I understand that this man just didn't touch the boy, but the boy said that he touched him. And the whole village came with katis and everything else to chop him up.
Where is this? India or outside?
This is Oro Orchard.
What's Oro Orchard? Okay.
And I was there, and I began, Ma, Ma, and the whole group dispersed. They never touched this fellow.
Absolutely.
Never touched him.
Several such experiences.
Yes.
The power of name. Even if we know nothing about yoga, people often think they have to practice yoga, they have to read the Life Divine. So they sometimes ask, how can we practice yoga because we can't even read Life Divine? So sometimes they say that's a qualifier. Because if you read the Life Divine, then you'll be put into a route which is not easy to reach. You will start thinking of what the ineffable is. And then you will write the books on impersonal. So, but when you have none of these things, then God says, okay, I'll take you through another route. And that route is ma. Not that one, it's wonderful. Life Divine is wonderful. But I'm just saying that there is a route that Sri Aurobindo is open, which is so direct and so simple. People don't know because, they start reading Life Divine, Synthesis of Yoga, all these works. And much later they discover it. Then they say, oh, it was so simple. We didn't know it. All of us. Many of us. Much later you discover, after going through all these books, you give a talk on human cycle and this and that. Letters on yoga also. Much later you will hear that section and those personal letters. And then you discover that, oh, okay, that was the secret. Ma. You have to do other things. But thing is that this is the real. Yeah. So we'll
Namaste.
close here. Namaste.
Namaste.